Well, let's talk more broadly now about migration. Obviously, it's a big topic. We've been talking about it every day this week. Joining me is macro business chief economist Leith Van Onselen. Leith, thanks for joining me. Based on the saga that we've seen play out in the Liberal Party this week, someone like yourself, you strongly advocate for lowering migration. How confident are you that we will actually get a proper debate, a debate we so desperately need on Big Australia?
Look, I'm not very confident at all, Danica. There's been a conspiracy of silence around immigration, let's be real, for decades. And virtually every opinion poll over the past decade or so, Australians do not support high levels of immigration or a big Australia, yet politicians continue to shove it down our throats. And the left-leaning media and some politicians, they always play the racism card whenever, someone like me or anybody else suggests that we should have lower immigration. So I'm not that hopeful, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's never racist to have a proper discussion. It doesn't mean you're anti-migration. It just means we have to have a serious chat about lowering migration. And we've been talking about a population plan, which we desperately need. If you were put in charge, what would you recommend? Where do we even start?
Okay, so what I would do is I would immediately call for a plebiscite on Australia's future population to be held at the next election. And so, it is the democratic thing to do, to allow Australians to basically vote on how big they want Australia to become, say by 2050. And then the government could then use those results of the plebiscite to calibrate the migration system intake against the agreed population levels. That's what I'd do. I'd call for an immediate population plebiscite.
Look, something needs to happen. I think that's a fair point. And even last week, Labor announced that Australia's permanent migrant intake would be maintained at this historically high level of 185,000, Leith. So that there's no plans at all, no plans to cap migration under this government. Laid on the line, what does this mean for the country?
Yeah, so it's important to know that 185,000 permanent migrant intake is only the family stream and the skilled stream. On top of that, there's another 20,000 humanitarian migrants we take every year. And there's also around 30,000 net Kiwis who come to Australia who can live here permanently. So the real permanent figure is 235,000. And that's coincidentally exactly what the Centre for Population's long-run projections are for Australia's net overseas migration for the next 40 years. And then, of course, we've got the temporary migrants whose numbers have grown by 750,000 since Labor came to office. And the Albanese government last month mentioned that they're going to raise the student intake by another 25,000. So the upshot of all this, Danica, is that immigration is going to remain high, which means that the housing and infrastructure problems in our major cities are going to remain, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is Labor's Big Australia. And it was interesting, Leith, because you wrote this week about how the solution to Australia's rental crisis is being played out in real time in Canada. So what can we learn?
Yeah, so just like in Australia, rents in Canada soared to unbelievable levels in 2022 and 2023 in response to Canada's largest ever influx of migrants. So they had an absolutely massive immigration boom like us. But mid last year, the Canadian government actually imposed a 3-year freeze on Canada's population growth. And the plans worked. So Canada's seen heaps of temporary migrants go home and Canada's population growth has flatlined. And as a result of this population growth flatlining, Canada's actually seen 11 consecutive months of falling rents. So Canada has basically in the process of solving its rental crisis by effectively freezing the population, not allowing the population to grow, letting housing catch up. And as a result, rents are now falling and the vacancy rate is rising. And what this tells you is that for Australia, the solution to our rental crisis is to obviously slow population growth to a level that is below the nation's ability to build housing infrastructure. If we do that, we'll actually solve the rental crisis. And if we don't do that, the rental crisis is going to continue. It's as simple as that.
Well, the real-time solutions are out there. Just look overseas. Exactly. Leith Van Onselen, good to see you. Thanks as always for coming on the show.